Whoever is listening, however you are listening, I hope you are having a fantastic day. And this is your MWP, otherwise known as your man with a plan. Well, it's been a while, but what a better time for a restart of this little channel I like to call than one of the best times in sports. December and January are always the peak of football. College football and the NFL, the playoffs are heating up. College basketball is starting back up. It seems like in a year where nothing seems to be normal, it's refreshing to see that some things never change. So here's how we're going to try to work things out. Moving forward, we're going to try to do a topics episode, and we're going to try to do a breakdown episode. You're going to expect to see one breaking down Week 13 of the NFL and college football. Crazy week. We have Tuesday games this week. We have 2 Monday night games, all revolving around the Ravens and the Steelers having COVID issues, and that cancellation and postponing, changing the schedule a bit. And every week it feels like we're holding our breath, waiting for Saturday and Sunday to get by with no breaking news from ESPN telling us that XYZ of a player has a COVID case and it's going to change things up or cancel the season. It makes me feel like this season has the potential to be one of the more special ones, as each game is no longer going to be taken for granted. And it's special. It enables a certain appreciation for this year. Each week is like climbing a mountain, and every time we get to the top, it just feels amazing. So let's start with the college football playoff. I know that bringing it up is definitely frustrating, and some words I like to use are controversial, subjective, inconsistent. Even a year like this one, college football playoff is reliable in keeping things the same and frustrating the majority of college football fans. So here's a question I want you to ponder. How much is brand going to be emphasized over substance? Ohio State football comes to mind when I ask this question, and the overall mess that has been the Big Ten football conference. The ACC and the SEC are notable for starting early and leaving their conferences with breathing room, and we've had a number of cancellations and postponements, but it's all worked out because we have time, and that's something that the Big Ten does not have. And Ohio State's now sitting at 5-0. They have one more regular season game left to play, and that's against their rival, the Michigan Wolverines. But unfortunately for them, that game also is in jeopardy, with Michigan dealing with a bunch of COVID cases, cancellations. It's in the balance, and so we'll hold our breaths and wait for Saturday to see if Ohio State will play. But here's where I'm worried. There's been talk about the conference meeting up and changing the rules as their most marketable team, who has the highest chance to make the playoff and could very well win it all, might not be able to be eligible to participate in their own title game. And a big merit for qualification of the college football playoff is that championship. And with limited games, Ohio State needs something to boost the resume, and they might not have it. So the Big Ten's trying to bend the rules a little bit, and that's where I have an issue. We take a team like Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 2-2, and they're not participating for the playoff. They're playing for their pride, for their season. But they got screwed early on. They were 2-1. They had a chance to compete for their title game with cancellations. Sorry, they were deemed ineligible. But now we go with less than a couple weeks for the Big Ten title, with Wisconsin having to face a mentality of their season's pretty much over for anything near 6 prominent bowl games. Now we have Northwestern, who's sitting at 4-1, who's going to play Ohio State potentially, if Ohio State doesn't get canceled. Now the Big Ten's looking to change this, and I have a big issue with that. Does the playoff, the committee, do they see this as an issue, or are they going to take their brand for what it is and throw them in there anyway over a team that might be more qualified, like a Alabama, a Notre Dame, a Florida team that might beat Alabama in 2 weeks? Does the brand of Ohio State trump the accomplishments of these other teams? Notre Dame and Alabama, for example, both finished with at least 10 wins on their resume and multiple top 25 wins, as Notre Dame took down Clemson, North Carolina, and Alabama took down Auburn, Georgia. So many teams. Ohio State's one win is a near choke against a top 10 Indiana team, while a great story is ranked up high due to the circumstance that there aren't many other teams out there playing. Take the Pac-12, for example. Could have USC, Oregon, Washington, Stanford ranked. But since they too started late, Indiana was able to jump ahead in the rankings. A good example of this is Coastal Carolina and BYU, who normally are good teams, but they're not even in the talk for discussion in the college football playoff because it's a group of 5 team. But this year is unique, and we have so many good teams out there that could be left in the dust, like a Notre Dame, Alabama. You could have a Heisman Trophy candidate Mac Jones sit out because he lost the game against the probable Heisman Trophy winner, Kyle Trask, for a Justin Fields team that looked sloppy against Indiana. Michael Penix Jr. tore that secondary up. This was supposed to be a team that was on the cusp of revenge, that felt they were done wrong in the CFP semifinal against Clemson last year with the controversial fumble call, the controversial targeting call that sparked Clemson's comeback. Does Ohio State and their brand trump all that? The CFP's duty is to pick the 4 best teams in college football. And will we sit there and see a 5-0 Ohio State make it over a 10-1 Alabama? Both don't have a conference championship, so why would 10-1 Alabama suffer for doing all the right things when an Ohio State that's sitting at 5-0 gets to walk in and potentially play a Clemson or Notre Dame in the first round? A win is a win, after all, for Ohio State when we talk about Indiana. And we'll see how the puzzle pieces come together, but it's something that really, really worries me going forward. Because it's not just this year, it's next year and the year after that. How do the rules change? What happens if we have to deal with COVID-19 in 2021? And we have to deal with cancellations, postponements? What does the CFP look at now? The CFP is not designed to please everyone, but it should have the best people making the best decisions possible. And Ohio State, sitting at 5-0, does not impress me as one of the top 4 teams. I would take Notre Dame or Alabama, or heck, I'd take a 2-loss Clemson over them at this point. I think that the body of work and a full season is more admirable and it fits the qualification of a top 4 team. You don't want to have a 10-1 Clemson that's played 11 games and a 5-0 Ohio State that's had tons of rest, and they go and play at the Rose Bowl. How does that look for your marketable? How is that marketable for one of the biggest events of the year? We don't want to have a champion with an asterisk. We want this season to end right and season to end well. So I hope that the CFP makes the right choice. In the end, if Ohio State gets to play their Big Ten championship game, and they look good doing it, then this argument is pointless. But it's worth discussing because it's changing the way we look at the college football playoff and conferences. This year's been crazy, I get it. But why do we bend the rules for one and screw over another? I hope the CFP does their duty in making the 4 best teams available, and if that's Ohio State and they look the part, then so be it. But right now, I'm worried. I'm very, very worried. Alright, let's talk about Deshaun Watson. I watched him over Thanksgiving. You watched him over Thanksgiving. That being the marketable star of that day, with the Steelers and Ravens game getting canceled. So you're sitting there watching Deshaun Watson tear up Detroit, and rightly so. Matt Patricia was fired. And we can save that for another day, another topic. If y'all want something like that, just let me know. And then we watched them yesterday. They were playing a very, very good Colts squad. And Deshaun Watson, down 6, is driving. And they're at the goal line. And the center and Deshaun Watson have a miscue. And the ball is lost. The Colts recover. Game over. Absolutely heartbreaking. And I had this script written up Sunday morning. And I was going to watch the NFL games about why the Texans were back. And rather than change things up, I still believe in what I had originally written. That I believe the Texans are back. I think that they will be a playoff team next year, and I think they'll finish the year strong. They'll finish 8-8. Deshaun Watson is special. He carries the franchise on his back, and he carries himself like it. He was on the bench after the loss, and T.Y. Hilton came and consoled him following it. And he was quoted as saying that he puts the city on his back, and he feels like he let the city down. And I'm sitting there, man, this team's 4-8. They're not fighting for anything. He acts like each game is that playoff game versus Alabama, and it's everything on the line. That every fan, every teammate, their season is on his shoulders. So how did we get here? Let me take you back to the beginning of 2020, before COVID. Your jaw's on the floor. They're up 24-0 on the Super Bowl favorite, Kansas City Chiefs, shortly following the upset that happened the night before with the Tennessee Titans. And you see Kansas City making horribly uncharacteristic plays. Drops. Punts. Dropped. And Deshaun Watson leads a couple drives, and they're already up 24-0 before you even begin to think. But that one constant plagues Houston, and that constant is Bill O'Brien. A combination of lax play calling and some questionable special teams play, a fake punt on 4th and 2. What are you doing? And before you know it, we're all tied up. The lead's over. The game's over. Deshaun Watson and the Texans leave Kansas City disappointed, but hopeful that they showed the entire NFL world that something special is brewing in Houston. They have all the pieces. They have all the guys. But that one constant, their anointed GM, Bill O'Brien, proves to be the Texans' Achilles heel. Again, your jaw is on the floor. DeAndre Hopkins? Traded? Well, I'm sure that they got value out of that pick. I can see why there is tension between Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins wants to be paid like a true number one in the NFL. But you gotta get Watson protection. So let's see how they did it. Oh, a second rounder. David Johnson, the washed up running back, $10 million every year. This is the typical year in and year out for the Houston Texans, where Bill O'Brien traded away or gave up stars for nothing, let them walk in free agency, get nothing out of them with second round draft picks for the best receiver in football? Are you kidding me? So the year starts, and the Texans are 0-4. They're competitive, but it was clear that something was missing. The team looked deflated, like they didn't want to play for their coach. So the Texans did the right thing and let him go. But then something changed. Romeo Crennel came in, and the Texans were returning to form. Deshaun Watson, despite their record, is having one of the best seasons of his career, if not the best. Without DeAndre Hopkins, many believed he would take a downward turn in his career, that he was mainly the reason Deshaun Watson was so successful. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Watson is top 4 in passing yards, top 3 in quarterback rating, and his yards per attempt in career best. His completion percentage is through the roof, also a career best. His turnovers are on pace to be the lowest of his career. And all of this with a rotating receiving room of skills being cut, Will Fuller never being able to finish a season with the unfortunate PED suspension, and Randall Cobb, who hasn't really been able to maintain a consistency without the Packers. Deshaun Watson is a top 4 quarterback. The argument is nowhere near it should be. He is in a class with Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, who, may I add, struggled this Sunday against a very underrated Giants team. He's an NFL star that's been plagued since he got there with poor front office choices and poor management. A line that has never been able to protect him. You guys all know the story. Deshaun Watson traveled to a game with a punctured lung. He had to drive in the team equipment bus because he couldn't fly. It was ridiculous. put up great numbers still. The pieces are around him. There is a real fire in this team, and he is the catalyst for it. It is an MVP season that has been plagued by poor choices. If you haven't watched Deshaun this year, if that record turns you off and you'd rather watch a different game, I implore you, watch this game on Sunday versus the Chicago Bears. You will see a franchise star, a top 4 quarterback in the NFL. The mountain is there to climb. Houston is so close. They're a good hire and a couple pieces away, and Deshaun Watson will be that catalyst for them. They will be a playoff team next year, and they will compete with teams like Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Tennessee, Indianapolis. The pieces are there. That final push is the right coach. And I promise you, in 2021, the Houston Texans will make the playoffs. And Deshaun Watson will be your guy. So let me leave you with this. I'm ecstatic to be back. I'm excited to bring some content and my perspective in my small corner. You can expect an episode coming Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to break down Week 13. We're going to break down college football, the wild weekend it was. Plus, we're going to go over the Monday night games and the Tuesday night game with the Ravens and the Cowboys. And we're going to preview the Rams-Patriots Thursday night football game that may decide the path that New England takes on the rest of the season, and whether Jared Goff can get revenge and avenge his Super Bowl loss against the Patriots, losing 13-3 and looking like a shell of himself from that season. I want to thank anyone who has decided to listen today, and I want you to look out for more things to come. This is your MWAP, and have a great day, and stay safe.